Colorado is a state with breathtaking scenery. The ghost settlements of the peaks are locked in time. Although there are places beneath the silence where individuals disappear, not accidentally or forcefully, but by something that none can elucidate. The 3 decades that hit, disappearances have baffled reasoning. A geologist sucked up by a cavern that doesn't. There is no longer a UFO seeker who recorded something previously observing him vanishing without being seen, and a journalist looking into a man who has gone missing, who disappeared in the same manner as none were discovered. Everyone was warned, and nobody heard. Are you prepared to settle in? Breathe deeply while holding your pillow tight. Due to what you are going to hear is a marked mystery surrounding the reporter who disappeared in a ghost. A vanished village in Silver Plume, Colorado. A mining community tucked up in the Rocky Mountains with fewer than 200 inhabitants. Buildings on the main road from a different century with a quiet so dense that it seems like in 1988. The town is holding its breath. That silence engulfed a journalist who was arrived to look into a single disappearance. He joined a different Herman named. It's possible that Keith Reinhard got too near reality that the community didn't want to recall that Keith Reinhard was a sports manager. The Chicago Daily Herald's writer at 49. He took a leave of absence from his job to look for a reset, something more significant, a second chapter, causing him to relocate to Silver. Choose a location free of distractions when just months ago, there was one unanswered mystery. Tom Young, a man, had vanished. His dog also disappeared from the town. Struggle sign just gone. Keith rented the identical structure in which Tom had resided and started a tiny antique store, he said. He was working on a novel with friends, but shortly his actions shifted, and he developed an obsession. He stopped sleeping because of Tom's situation, walked the mountain trails for hours alone, gathered clips from newspapers about incidents of missing persons in the region. According to residents, he began conversing with some people think he no longer saw as a man who disappeared. Tom Young, someone who had made a discovery. The burial of something on August 7, 1988. Keith departed his store at approximately 4 p.m. Jacket, no food, no water, and no supplies. He had a notepad and pen in his back pocket. He informed a pal before departing. Gone to Don't Search for Me, Mountain. He was never seen again after 6 days. Helicopter exploring the mountains described seeing a single figure standing still. A rescue crew was on a steep slope. Said once they arrived at the location, there was nothing there. No gear, no footsteps, only a few weeks following Keith's. A cassette recording was discovered after disappearing at the identical vintage store had been secured with no indications of a forced entrance. The entire interview was on the recording. Keith and a local man had recorded. Regarding Tom Young, but something off, the tape's inquiries weren't in. They were absent from Keith's notebook, his notes or drafts, and close to the conclusion of. There's a slight sound in the recording that's something like breathing in a low murmur, yet not Keith's, as though there was someone else in. Someone in the room is formally listening. Keith's case is still open. Authorities referred to it as voluntary disappearance, although his acquaintances say, no, he left something he was near. Outlines tail notes in the back of drafts. He wrote on one of his last pages, some stories are reluctant to be told because defend themselves, and occasionally they triumph. Silver Plume is still standing today. Visitors snap pictures, hikers stroll the same paths, but other residents claim that on calm evenings, you can hear footsteps just outside the town, as if someone is still making an effort to complete a story that refuses to be finished. A town that preserves its a man who asks too many questions about inquiries and an absence that appears to be more than a coincidence. But Silver. There are other locations in Colorado than Plume where you are followed by a few moments of stillness. Someone else vanished hours south, but while pursuing lights in the UFO hunter sky never returned. There are mysteries in Colorado, but down south where the mountains and deserts meet, a location is well known for one item. Not sunlight, not headlights, but light floating lights that are silent and far away. Known as the Sand, they are intelligent machines. The Louis Valley is a 120-mile expanse of open country having more encounters of UFOs than nearly. In America, it's also the place where a man by the name of Tim Goodwin entered the. Tim was never seen again after leaving the desert. Goodwin wasn't some weird person, sci-fi or conspiracy theorist on the internet. He was a military veteran and a daydreamer, an individual who was interested in behaviors following their retirement from aviation. In the late 1990s, Tim created a forced personal fixation on oddities in the sky. He started identifying trends in the flight data, even weather radar and satellite footage. It directed him to the San Luis Valley, thought that something was going on there. Something clever, something that refused to be filmed. So in August, in 2002, he put tracking devices in his SUV, cameras, satellite transmitters, and other equipment as well as solar panels, and entered the. He informed buddies he would be checking the desert. He made it 3 days on and every 12 hours. On August 17th, in the evening, Tim texted his contact's shortwave radio message. It was briefly quiet yet odd in Denver. 3 of them are not on the ridge. The A-plane is silently observing me. Then static, which was the final person to. Have you heard from the search teams for Tim Goodwin? Was sent out in less than 36 hours. Discovered his car parked just where solar panels should have been used. His tent was being operated via a laptop that was deployed. The odd section zipped shut but was empty. Tim had his footwear inside the tent with him, with his water supply and satellite phone and torch as though he had taken off his clothes. Fell asleep and just disappeared. His equipment was unharmed while he flew. However, one GoPro camera fixed on a tripod was still filming 200 yards away when they got there. The video had never been formally released, but investigators explained it in the last 3 minutes. Complete blackness followed by a slow vertical beam, bright white light across the arid landscape floor silently. Then something enters frame, a person with limbs that are around 7 feet tall. It walks slowly because it is very long and thin. A voice barely audible pauses behind the camera. "Can you see me?" is audible, and in. Tim doesn't appear to be walking in the last frame, simply standing there and gazing directly into the lens, eyes wide and motionless, followed by the battery. Tim's body was never discovered due to cuts. The area surrounding his camp revealed not even his own tracks, no indications of struggle without any skid trails or tire traces, animal behavior, as though he had just ceased to exist. But here's what truly unnerved people. He wasn't the first to disappear there, and he wouldn't be. The San Luis Valley has a rich history of unexplained disappearances, ranches, tourists, and even whole herds of. Many cattle leave behind after going missing overnight, equipment, food, and automobiles, exactly like Tim, all discovered in flawless order, aside from his file was marked as missing for an unidentified reason, and that's where the narrative formally comes to an end, although some claim that there is still footage of. It has been circulated and replicated in private discussion boards and in all versions. Tim never changes his expression. Fearful but not in agony. A man who is empty, chased celestial lights and possibly located anything that was already being sought after him, albeit not every absence occurs in the open, while others are completely absorbed by locations that shouldn't be there, locations that stay out of sight till you're positioned between them, and acknowledge that you're not the. Initially, the man entered the cave and never arrived. Our caverns are peculiar locations that breathe, swallow, and occasionally they also ingest people. In 1987, a guy Mel Naninga, who left his house and entered the Mesa and entered Cortez, Colorado, searching for something in the Vede wilderness. He thought he had discovered years before. He claimed that Cave 1 wasn't shown on any maps. He felt bad because he never showed up. Mel wasn't careless back then. He was 42 years old, a former geology instructor who was quite methodical. The most of his adult life had been spent investigating arid tunnels and abandoned mines and lava tubes in the southwestern region. However, one cave close to Mesa Verde made an impression on. He said he had stumbled upon it while hiking alone in the 1970s, said. It was inscribed on a sleek wall of. What bothered him was the deep and narrow stone. Wasn't the form, but rather the quiet that couldn't hear me breathing, he said. Friend once had no echo at all. Just like he didn't hear the sound being absorbed. The day, but it was haunting. More than 10 years later, He returned to discover it once more for yourself on October 2nd, 1987. Mel left a message for his absent neighbor, hiking for no more than 2 days if I don't return. He also put a tape on the ridge, a recorder at the cave's entrance. After 4 days, the search team located that recorder. Mel's truck was later parked close by, but no blood or drag. But indications of a battle indicates the absence of at least one cave entrance. The recorder was the only thing anyone could find again. Was continuing to play the tape inside. Intact, the tape's first hour is, as you may anticipate, footsteps breathe Mel describing what he observes. He explains the rock formations and temperature changes. Then, after a long, deep stillness, he answers, no echo. The smooth walls aren't natural. After 10 minutes, his voice. Back, but I can't now since it's whispering. I think I've gone too, because I can hear my own steps. So far, it's hollow rather than a cave. The rhythmic, unnatural, clicking sound of metal. He begins to breathe more rapidly. Don't keep saying the same thing over and over. It's important to remember your name. Then static for the final 5 minutes. Not even the sound of the tape. For 2 weeks, rescuers searched the region. They discovered nothing. No body, no equipment. Cave. The scenery was different from Mel's. The ridge he drew on the notes had no gaps that some claimed erosion might have. Others believed Mel got lost, so they buried it. But nobody was able to describe the audio on the recording. Engineers checked it and found no issues. Clear indications of meddling with that voice gradually degenerating into fear and that statement, it's not a cave, hollow. Hikers continue to go decades later, absent in the same area infrequently. But their GPS trackers stop when they do. Their last messages are jumbled while they are working, and a voicemail was left in one instance, with only clicking noises, precisely the same beat as Mel's recording in certain. Think there's a structure underneath. Not human, not natural, beneath the desert. Some believe it to be a geological sound. Capture a system of air pockets that is collapsing. However, people who have listened to the tape understand 3 men, 3 locations that appear to have disappeared purposefully, remove evidence from a ghost town that conceals itself in a desert the cave that was never a cave that listens back. None of them were ever discovered in any cave, but each one left a sound, a message, or a whisper, a last moment captured on video. There are remnants left by some mysteries. Warnings are left by others. So if you ever find yourself in the middle of Colorado, in a mountain's shadow, or under think about the sky that looks too quiet. Do you hear the silence? I wonder, or is it actually listening to you? Cases that most concerned you. Drop your hypothesis in the remarks section and let us know what state that we ought to investigate more, because every location has its own mysteries, but only some are markedly mysterious.